Today I'd like to introduce you to one of my favorite brushes, and that is the angled brush. And it's named that because guess what? The end of the bristles is cut at an angle, which gives it some different characteristics than some of our more symmetrical brush choices. So pay attention and see if you learn some ways that you might use the angle brush in your paintings. So I'd like to begin by familiarizing you with the different ways that we can hold the brush. If we hold the brush like this, we have a nice flat, broad profile to this brush head, which would allow us to create very thick brush strokes. For instance, across a paper, I don't have any paint on this right now, but if I did, you can see that this brush would spread out like so, and we would have a nice broad brush stroke. If, however, we rotate the brush 90 degrees, you can see that profile is getting a lot slimmer to where we get really a nice tight arrangement of the bristles, and we're ready to make a nice straight line. So if we hold the brush like this and hold it against the canvas, that allows us to make a narrower brush stroke. This is great for making straight lines. Like I said, you can do it vertically or you can do it horizontally, just depending on your needs. But be aware that this orientation allows you to create broad strokes, and then you can get progressively narrower as you rotate the brush 90 degrees. You'll notice also the brush has a pointy end over here, and that can be really useful as well. That can be used to make little dot applications or some kind of fine detail work. So this brush really has like at least 3 different ways that you can hold it to be used for 3 very different applications. You can see here I have 8 varieties of these angled brushes. This is about the largest size that I typically use on most of my paintings, although there certainly are angled brushes that are much, much larger than this. In fact, I've even used some to paint interior walls of my house or the deck boards outside, and those, maybe 4 inches thick. There are just a lot of variety in all of these options. But as far as my canvas sizes, these are ones I typically use. This is about the smallest angled brush that I use, and you can see in comparison to the size of my thumb, that's quite a bit smaller. It's a very small brush, but we still have the same anatomy. We still have where the brush is broader when you hold it like this. It gets progressively slimmer when we rotate it 90 degrees, and again, it has the pointed end, which allows for even finer dots and detail work than the pointed portion of the big brush. So I'd like to show you how different orientations of holding the brush will affect the kind of strokes that you can make when using an angled brush. So I loaded it up with some paint, and I'm going to hold it first in the broad orientation so that it is placing the widest part of the brush head on the canvas, or in my case, I'm just using cardstock on a clipboard. Load up a little more paint. You can see the resulting stroke is nice and thick and nice straight edges pretty much as I drag it down. So it's a nice broad stroke. So this is good for some good coverage. If I reload the brush with paint, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees so we get that nice slim profile, this time I'm going to hold the brush more upright, kind of like a pen, not so much like this, because I want to take advantage of getting the maximum amount of the brush head making contact with the paper. And so when I hold it like this, I can get all those bottom bristles touching. So I'm going to try to hold the end of the brush so you can kind of see what I'm doing. So I just hold it on and drag it down. And you can see that the mark that's left by that rotation is considerably slimmer than this profile of a brush stroke. Then using just the tip of this pointy part of the angled brush, I'll load up a little bit of paint, and you can see, very simply, it just makes some little dots. It can make a bigger dot if I make more pressure, a little bit of a less dot. I guess I'm running out of paint on those. There we go. Just some little dots. You might also just want to kind of play with the brush, and that is just like load it up and practice making some marks and rotating it while you are moving it around. So it's kind of a ribbony effect. You can get some broad strokes, moving to some thinner strokes or vice versa. Just kind of experiment with different ways of moving it and feeling how it changes position and observing the lines that form. So I hope you found this helpful and maybe learned a thing or two about how you can use an angled brush and what makes it a little bit different from some of the other brush choices. If you have any other questions or other ideas of how the angled brush could be useful, drop them in the comments below and I'll be sure to get back with you. But thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.